Hello guys, my name is Maria and I am your Brazilian teacher for today. And today we are going to keep talking a little bit more about word classification in Portuguese. This video is a part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1 yet, go back to the channel and then you go back here again. So let's start with the verbs. Verbs are used to designate actions, states of beings, processes, or nature phenomena. And we can always conjugate them in Portuguese. Like in English, they work a little bit different. We only have the rule of conjugation in the third person of singular, but in Portuguese we vary a lot with the conjugation with the subjects. So if we take the verb to go, ir, we're going to have something similar as this. Eu vou, tu vais, eles vão, nós vamos, ele ou ela vai. And yes, verbs also have a few classifications. There are 5 in total, and we're going to talk about all of them. First classification is the one of the regular verbs. The regular verbs are conjugated according to the pattern of the Portuguese language, where we add the suffix er, ar, and er. I'm going to put them here so you can understand better. So, ar, cantar, to sing. Er, comer, to eat. Ir, falir. Falir is a verb that you don't have in English, but it's basically like being bankrupt, like you're broke, you have no money. Then we also have the irregular verbs, but as the name says, we are not going to have a pattern of conjugation like we have with the regular verbs. So the irregular verbs vary a lot, the suffix that we use in the end of the words to conjugate them. Like when we have the verb to give, we can conjugate it in dar, dou, and dei. Or when we think about the verb to fit, we have cabe, coube, cabemos. You can see that the suffixes are very different from each other and from the regular verbs. We also have what we call defective verbs because they are not possible to be conjugated in all of the conjugations that we have in Portuguese. Do you know when we have like I, you, he, she, it, we, they, we have those pronouns in Portuguese, and usually the verbs flex themselves to be conjugated with those subjects. In English, we don't have this, but in Portuguese we do, and it's like if on a few of the subjects that we have is not possible to conjugate those verbs. That's why they are defective. If the defective one we cannot conjugate in all of the forms, we have another types of verbs that are the abundant verbs, because we can indeed classify them and conjugate them in more than one form. So the verb to accept, okay, we can conjugate aceitar, and we can say aceitado and aceito when we conjugate into the participle tense. And the verb to deliver, entregar, can be conjugated as entregue or entregado into the participle tense. And we have the anomalous verbs. And the anomalous verbs, they can be considered irregular verbs, but the difference is that they have a variation into their suffixes that is very meaningful, like it's very different. That is so different that we need to create a subcategory for them. Like the verb to be can be conjugated in those forms: ser, sou, és, foi. You can see that we don't have like any similarity between the conjugations. Also the verb to go: ir, vou, vais, fomos. So again, it's very different. Now let's speak a little bit about adjectives. Adjectives are words used to give qualities and characteristics to nouns, okay? And sometimes we think that adjectives are only qualities, but that's not true, because those characteristics can be positive or they can be negative. And you remember that we have a few words in Portuguese that we can conjugate in number and gender. Adjectives are one of these categories that we can vary. So when we think about the adjective good, we can have bom, that is for man, and boa, that is for women. Now the adjective brave, we can have corajoso for men and corajosa for women. So we have a very binary language. An exception is the adjective sad, that is triste, and since it is finished with the letter E, it can be considered like neutral. Now let's see that in a sentence. Maria e José são muito bons amigos. Maria and José are very good friends. So we can see that the adjectives good in the case of bom and friend in the case of amigo can modify themselves to be conjugated correctly with the number of subjects. Let's see a few more examples into sentences to understand how this works better. We are going to use the adjective bonito. Bonito can be pretty, beautiful, and handsome at the same time. See, so let's say, ela é uma garota bonita. In English, she is a pretty girl. We can see that the word bonito is now as bonita with the letter A into the end to indicate that we are speaking about a woman. Now, when we say ele é garoto bonito, he is a handsome guy, we have the changing of the last letter from A to O. So O is considered masculine and A is considered feminine. So far, we spoke only in singular, but in plural, we have something too. So let's imagine. Eles são bonitos. They are beautiful. In this case, we use the letter O to indicate that there is a possibility of neutrality there. So to finish this class, let's conjugate a few verbs in Portuguese to understand how they actually work. All the conjugations that we are going to see are into the infinitive tense, okay? Eu faço, I do. Tu fazes, oops, the microphone. Tu fazes, you do. Ele faz, he does. Ela faz, she does. Nós fazemos, we do. Vós fazeis, you do. Eles fazem, they do. Just one more. Eu tenho, I have. Tu tens, you have. Ele tem, he has. Ela tem, she has. Nós temos, we have. Vós tendes, you have. Eles têm, they have. You can notice that we don't have a pronoun that is similar to it, because we use it in English to refer to things that are not people, right? That is not a she or a he. But in Portuguese, we have gender for objects too. So the pen is actually a she in Portuguese. I don't know why, but the lighter is actually a he in Portuguese. Again, don't know why, but you should know about that. Okay, class, I hope you enjoyed the class. And don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I see you soon. Bye-bye.